Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board work session, followed by the Town Board meeting for Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. There's a couple of items in our work session to go through, and then we will have our Town Board meeting and our public hearing on our proposed leaf blower legislation, which will start thereafter. So the first thing on the agenda tonight is an authorization for an award to bid for tree removal. So Jill, take it away.
Right. Hi, thanks. Let's talk about timely. So we went out to bid for a new tree removal. Our recommendation is that Olmsted, who was our current tree bid company, won the award again. It's our recommendation that we award the bid. Actually, we've been using them because of the storm. So we will be retroactively approving it so that we have an opportunity to take and capture some of the tree work that they've been doing for the past week in the new bid. The second thing is authorization. I'm sorry, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. The next is the authorization to award the community center roof repair, actually roof replacement. And this bid was not without a little bit of its excitement as far as roofing bids go. So our low bidder actually withdrew their bid. They came in significantly lower than all of the other bids. And when we inquired, it turns out that they had miscalculated the square footage of the roof. And so the demolition and everything else. And so they had significantly miscalculated it. And so asked to withdraw, and it was the recommendation of our engineer, Waitsky, who's overseeing the RFP and reviewing the bids, that in light of that error, that he recommended that we take and we allow them to withdraw. There is a significant, extensive resolution in your packet tonight, talking about the fact that we got 5 bids that spanned from $143,850 to $482,000. 3 of the bids came in within $50,000 of each other, 336, 359, 389. And so you could see that the lowest bidder was quite the outlier by $200,000, and the significant math error would attribute it to that. So council informs us that in light of this significant error, that we are in a position to be able to allow them to withdraw and to award it to the next responsible bidder, which would be Armor Tight Construction at $336,500, and that's what we're going to be recommending to the board this evening. The next is going to be authorization to go out to bid for coach buses for 2021 for recreation. We are ever hopeful that at some point that trips will be able to resume, and we want to be in a position to be proactive and be able to provide them. Next on the agenda is the resolution authorizing the adoption of a revised paving restoration limits diagram. When we approved the local law not that long ago regarding uniform paving limits and standards for the town, one of the things we did inadvertently was we identified all of the projects as gas replacement as opposed to utility replacements. So this is really nothing more than a ministerial error and correction to expand the restoration limits in the diagrams to all buried utilities. So nothing else is changing other than the title of the diagrams. The next is the insurance renewals. It's our recommendation that we again go with Zurich for our liability insurance, as well as the crime insurance policy and the OCP policy, which is Owners Contractors Protective Policy, which is required by New York State. For the 2021 renewal season. The next thing is authorization to purchase a copier for the police. They're looking for a multifunction copier since theirs unfortunately has been overworked and no longer ceases to operate. The Next on the agenda is request for funding for the Council on Race and Equity. We originally thought that there were going to be 2 projects that the council was interested in funding. As it turns out, someone was very gracious and they actually donated the hosting costs. So we won't be asking the town for the hosting costs for the website, but we will be asking the board to authorize an expenditure not to exceed $4,500 to be able to show an additional movie in September. That's going to be sponsored by both the CRE and our rec department together. So we're very excited about that. The next is we've gotten a request from our EPIC committee to change the structure to specifically allow for student members. Council has indicated to us that the way our general mission statements are structured, that they actually don't specify that it can't be a student member, but we don't specifically include them except for SAB. EPIC is asking us whether or not we can take and revise the mission statement to specifically include student members. So we will be adding, we will be asking the board to adopt a revised mission statement that adds 2 student members to this committee.
So that's not strictly, I mean, it's lovely and we should do it because EPIC has asked us to, but it's not strictly necessary for that.
No, it actually, it isn't.
Because the Council on Race and Equity has a student.
Right, right. And Nick had actually indicated to us that it wasn't necessary, but they wanted to make sure that they knew that, you know, students were specifically included, much like our EPIC ambassadors. They wanted to make sure that there was a specific, you know, statement that they were more than welcome. Okay.
But I think it's a great practice and one that, you know,
yeah, I really do.
And across as many boards and commissions as possible, because, you know, including the voices of the youth in our community in the work that we're doing.
Only helps.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next is the resolution and agreement for third-party first responders for emergency equipment. At our last town board meeting, the board approved an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County, whereby Westchester County was providing the first responders, our volunteer ambulance and fire departments, with new emergency radios through the town. Westchester County can't directly directly contract or enter into an IMA with a not-for-profit. They have to go through the municipality. So we have agreed to take possession of these 3 radios. We are now entering into independent agreements with Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance, Millwood Fire, and Chappaqua Fire so that we can pass these radios, they're like $70,000 a piece, onto the fire companies. And Westchester County has asked us to enter into these agreements, and also with the specification that if the entity ceases to operate, that they would take and return them to the county. And so we're going to ask for approval for those agreements this evening. And we had actually put the leaf blower local law on for discussion at the work session because there was a proposed revision to it. Nick, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Certainly. If you look up a local law, the building inspector had a suggestion that the definition should be modified ever so slightly just to make sure that we included larger push behind and stand on leaf blowers. I wanted to make sure it was consistent. So Tom worked with Drew and came up with some suggested language that you see in the revised version that is in the packet and will be part of the local law being discussed at tonight's hearing. That was the only change. Tom just thought the clarification would be appropriate.
And we plan on voting on this, what September date?
So because of the fact that we have still over 10% of our community without power tonight, we have agreed that we're not intending to hold a vote this evening on the leaf blower legislation, so that we will give the community an opportunity to come back and be heard at another public meeting. So we will hold open the hearing tonight. And Jill, I believe the next date is for a town board meeting to hold a hearing is September 1st? Or no?
Yeah, I would actually kick it over to Tuesday the 8th.
To the 8th. Okay.
I'm so
The first is a work session?
to our work session, town board
Okay, so the
schedule.
first is a work session, so we'll do it on the 8th, which is
Right.
And well, we don't want this to continue to linger. Bear in mind that the law itself would take effect as of October 1st, but the implementation of it would start with the next summer blowing season.
Right, so May of 2021.
Can we unmute Rand? He's raising his hand.
Ah, great.
Sure, hold on. Rand, just unmute yourself.
Hi there. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I saw the suggested changes that was sent out. And while I am all for restricting more motorized leaf blowers, the intent of the law was really to restrict two-stroke engines. The extension to the walk-behind blowers are four-stroke engines. So it really, extending it to four-stroke engines really help environmentally push any forward the need to restrict a leaf blower of a four-stroke engine. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to start to extend into mowers and other type of four-stroke engines. So even though I'm all for restricting any type of carbon-producing engine, I would question the real intent of going to a walk behind or ride on type of leaf blower. Does that make sense to people? Everyone looks very confused by my comment.
No, it does make sense. I hear what you're saying. My thought on this is we are looking, this is not necessarily about emissions per se, right? This is really about noise, particulate, kick up, and so forth.
Agreed.
And therefore, any type of leaf blower would cause that same particular kick up and noise.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I'm not saying no, Jason. I just, the original intent was to try to control both emissions, particulate matter, and noise, whereby the two-stroke did just that. So again, extending it is, I'm more than happy to do that, but just the original intent was really just to try to control the two-stroke engine, not the four-stroke engine as well. You're just going to be.
Rand, I'm not understanding the reluctance to broaden the definition.
Well, you just might be raising two things. You might be raising questions that others will raise as to why, if you're going to be if you're going to be restricting a walk behind or a ride behind mower, leaf blower, why are you going to also then start to allow a lawnmower?
I'm sorry, why are you going to allow a lawnmower?
Lawnmower. You're now going to then start to raise a whole bunch of other questions that you were able to now to skirt with the original law. Plus, you're now going to you've now changed the language in the law again, and I'm concerned that we're going to go back through a whole nother set of public hearings, and because we've now changed the language one more time, and we're going to start from the beginning. If that's not the case, then
that's not.
We're moving forward.
Yeah, sorry, Ren. That from a legal perspective, that's not the case. When a public hearing is being held, the law can be changed. We've provided notice of the change. We've discussed the change, and the board is not voting on it tonight. So it's perfectly permissible, and comments from the public are welcome on the change in modified local law. And again, I do think it's consistent with the intent of the local law, which is geared towards the emissions and I'm sorry, the air particulates and the noise.
Okay, then I'm still fine with it. I just was concerned with changes in the language might affect where we start. Let's move forward.
So by expanding the definition, we pick up all types of leaf blowers, all types of gas-powered leaf blowers that are likely to be used in the community by individual homeowners and by commercial providers, because narrowing it only to the two-stroke motor backpack style or portable style meant that we were leaving a class of leaf blowers unaddressed. Is that the concern that Tom raised?
Exactly, that's exactly it. Yes, that it was not all encompassing. There was a category that was not there, and he was concerned it would lead for some confusion. So he felt it was best to close that loophole, if you will.
This is also easier from an enforcement perspective, insofar as a leaf blower is a leaf blower. Well, except unless it's an electric.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, or battery power. Okay.
Then I'm fine.
Cool. Thank you, Rand.
Thank you.
So that kind of takes us to maybe the end of our work session and the beginning of our town board meeting.
Yeah, there are just a couple of administrative items. Is there anything that anyone has any issues on?
So if anybody's here for the public comment portion or the public hearing with regard to the leaf blowers, we're going to pick that back up in just a moment. So if you prepared remarks,
3 minutes, 4 minutes. Payment of claims, adoption of monthly reports, authorization to close capital projects. This is just, again, ministerial that Diana needs to do. Adoption of a single set of minutes, and authorization to declare surplus police and DPW 5 vehicles. Okay. All right. We're ready to move into the town board meeting.
I muted myself again. Do we have anything to cover in the town board meeting before we open the public hearing?
Nope.
Hold on. Sorry, I flipping back and forth between all the pages in these packets. The leaf blower legislation is on page 82. The intent is on page 1. So page 3. Oh, I guess, well, before we, so I guess do we need a motion to go from the work session into the town board meeting?
We have typically done that, yes, to open up your town board meeting.
All right, can we get a motion to open the town board meeting?
So moved.
All right, give it to Lauren second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good evening and welcome to the town board meeting for Tuesday, August 11th. Thank you for joining us. I don't have a supervisor's report prepared for this evening. I can give those who are on the call a brief update about the storm response, which is what has been consuming most of our time over the past couple of days. You know, as of this evening at 5 p.m. we had, oh, this is not today's, this is yesterday. As of this evening at 5 p.m. we had 682 households that were still without power in the town of Newcastle out of 6,800 total households, which meant that between yesterday at 5 p.m. and today at 5 p.m. there were 633 houses that were returned to power. We are told by Con Ed in our most recent conversations with them that 95% of the outages in the town of Newcastle, what they consider to be the vast majority, should be restored by tonight, Tuesday, August 11th at 11 p.m. In order to hit that target, we would need to see that number of outages continue to drop. It would need to drop to about 200 households total in order for them to meet it. You know, we've seen past history of Con Ed failing to meet their estimated time to restore. So we don't put a whole lot of faith in that estimate at this point, but we remain optimistic. We'd love to be proved wrong. So Con Ed, please prove us wrong. Continue to restore households. You know, we receive a lot of emails and text messages and phone calls over the course of today, over the course of every day for the past week. It is the unfortunate reality that the town board does not have visibility into where Con Edison is sending their restoration crews. They do not come to us and ask us for guidance or opinions about priorities with regard to which neighborhoods should be restored and in what order. We give them to them because you all contact us. And so, you know, we certainly take all of those messages and forward them on to our Con Ed municipal liaison, as well as to the senior VPs that we speak to on our daily municipal call. We try to escalate issues as much as we can, but they do not always take our recommendations, and they certainly do not always respond to our requests for data, for transparency, for information about where they're working in our community, for information about why restorations are taking longer than they should. We do not have visibility into their operations. We believe that we should. We believe that we should be able to provide residents in this community with an estimated time of restoration. We believe that we as a town have the right to know where they are working on any given day. We don't have that information. So, you know, we try as a town board and as your elected officials and your representatives to respond to every email that we get and to provide as much information as we have. I know that oftentimes we wind up apologizing because we simply don't have the information that we know that you're looking for. We wish that we could provide more definite answers for folks. And please trust that behind the scenes, to the extent that we are able to do so, we are escalating issues, we are expressing our disappointment, our frustration, and even our anger and our outrage with Con Edison, certainly. And then we are also, to the greatest possible extent, liaising with our state and local elected officials daily. Every day we're on the phone with them, updating them on the status of things here and asking for their assistance in, again, prioritizing the restoration of service within our community. So that's kind of my brief update on where things are at with Con Edison. You know what, actually, before we jump into the public hearing, Lauren, do you want to provide a brief sort of overview on what we have learned in our investigation of the outages that people are experiencing with Optimum?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Ivy. So essentially, we have been participating in daily morning conference calls with the Optimum Maltese Group. Lee Schroeder, who's the EVP of Government Affairs, runs the call, and unfortunately, she doesn't provide a lot of information during these calls. We constantly ask her questions such as, what are the current outages? What's the estimate time of restoration? And also, how do folks report their outages because they don't have internet service, and or they cannot even call in because when they do call in, they get hung up on or disconnected. I've received emails and I've read all the Facebook posts, and I've seen how horrific their customer service has been, and I apologize to all of those folks who are having to endure that. We surfaced all of those frustrations on the call today. Today we did receive an update of the number of outages in Newcastle, and so currently there are 960 homes without internet service, which represents about 36% of Optimum's total customers in Newcastle. And unfortunately, our outage percentage is 9 times higher than the countywide average of 4%, which is just abominable. So another thing that has been extremely disappointing is that they promised to provide 3 other updates, which they have not provided. One of which is the number of crews in Newcastle, an estimated time of restoration. And lastly, Lee Schroeder had said that she would provide more guidance on how folks can obtain and apply for credits towards their bill. Because apparently people who have been applying for credits have been swiftly denied. So that is another unbelievable issue that this company is putting their customers through. So tomorrow morning, we have a 9 a.m. call with them once again. I am hoping that they will provide an update tonight like they did. Sorry, I'm sorry, like last night. We will absolutely update everybody once we have that information. Thank you.
Thanks. Jason, I know you were on that call as well. Did you have anything to add to that?
Lauren summed it up very well. Right? I mean, anything that I do would just be more complaining. But you know, the fact that there's a communications wire down across all 4 lanes of Route 100 in Millwood that's been going on for 8 days. The only way that Altice Optimum could have possibly, you know, if they were in our town, they must have driven over that communications wire numerous times. And so it's incredibly disappointing in terms of the response that they've given to our community. And Lauren summed up everything else extremely well.
Jeremy, anything to add? I know you've been more active on the Con Ed side than the
I don't really
Verizon and Altice side, but anything to add to this?
No, you don't need to hear my rich language. My description of anyone who's seen my emails would know, and what I've said online would know. But I do want to say this. This has really been a team effort, but Jill and Ivy have really led the charge. And you know, it's frustrating for everyone to say, well, I don't have power. What do you mean you did this? They really worked, you and the two of you really worked your proverbial tails off. I'll say it, busted your ass to get things done, and it's like slamming your head against the wall. So I commend the both of you from sincerely, as a neighbor, as a resident, as a colleague. And the same goes for our first responders, and that, you know, Chief Carroll, and I don't want to say to a lesser extent to offend these people, but you two led the charge. But Chief Carroll, Bart in the field, Bart Carrier from our DPW, and our fire department had to respond to things, and we saw the number of calls. People were complaining to us directly about, hey, where are the police? Why aren't they responding? Where are the fire department? Why aren't they responding? The magnitude of calls that came through over the course of the week and days and every day was hopefully, gratefully decreased, but pretty significant at one point. So anyway, bottom line is thank you. You guys really did a terrific job. It's not easy. It's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault, but thank you.
And I just want to reassure those 600 people that we have not forgotten about you, that nobody here, you know, as those numbers continue to sort of dwindle, there's still 600 people who are sitting in hot houses tonight in the middle of a heat wave. We haven't forgotten. We haven't stopped working. We will get up tomorrow morning first thing and continue to plug away on this problem. And then, you know, once we do resolve all of the power outages, and once we can, you know, we don't want to take our eye off that ball. We've been really, as a community, laser focused on finding solutions for people who are out of power. Once we resolve those issues, you know, I like to say to people, I've been furiously scribbling in the margins, and I know everybody has too, or flagging issues, or, you know, doing whatever sort of thing that you do to sort of keep track of all of the ideas that we have for the future. So, you know, once the outages are resolved, then we will engage in all of the sort of post-incident sort of thought processes that we need to go through in terms of thinking about how do we make sure that something like this never happens again. It's a lofty goal because we have been through many of these kinds of events in the past, but we know that there's much that we can do and pursue as a community. So, you know, please, those conversations are coming. We know that they need to be had. And, you know, give us some time to dig out from this storm, but then we look forward to engaging with the community and coming up with some solutions together. I will just turn it over to you, Jill Shapiro, for the town administrator's report, because I bet you have some things you want to jump in and say as well.
Just a couple things, and I don't want our community to think for a moment, because you guys are all so professional and so restrained and so proper and calm when you have these conversations, you know, during our Zoom meetings, that I think the community may be mistaken about how fiercely you have all been fighting for our community, and our residents should be, they should be tremendously grateful, and I know they all will be when their power is turned back on. But I have to tell you, the behind the scene efforts have been just Herculean and relentless, from late at night to early in the morning. You guys have been on straight through this storm. I also just want to take the opportunity to echo your thanks to our DPW and our police. They've worked extended hours to keep our residents safe and assist Con Ed in the clear and crew efforts. We ask our residents for continued patience as we continue to clear debris from our right of way. Our refuse yard actually is open from 7 to 3, Monday through Saturday, but this is for private residents, so residents of our town, to bring down debris that you can't cut up and leave curbside for Santa Pro. So Santa Pro has, trees can't be larger than 5 inches in diameter. And if you can make them into small bundles and leave them at curbside, they will still take and pick them up on their regular, routes. But if it's bothering you and you want to get rid of them and you can do it by yourself, this is not your gardener, it's just you coming down with your car, then our yard is open for you to be able to take and dump that stuff. So again, 7 to 3, Monday through Saturday. And again, I just, as a resident who lives here, I just want to thank the board so much for all of their hard work. It is remarkable the amount of calls that we've been on, literally from 8 o'clock in the morning straight through, just trying to get things done. And I shudder at the thought of what our town would be in, the shape we would be in, if all those calls and all of those hours had not been spent trying to advocate for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill, because you're the one at the helm of the ship. So we appreciate we appreciate your hard work through all of this. All right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so that leads us to the public comment, new business portion of our town board meeting. So if you're here because you want to enter a comment into the public hearing on the leaf blowers, we'll get to you in just a moment. But this portion of the agenda is for anybody who came to make a public comment on any new business.
If you're interested in speaking, just raise your digital hand or type in the chat box.
And I will also take the opportunity to look over Zoom at Christina Papes, our town clerk, to see whether we had any public comments come in over email for this meeting. And while Christina looks for the unmute function, Carrie, did we get anything on YouTube?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to unmute in 2 places because I'm calling in. We did get several comments that were emailed in. Actually, we just got one during the meeting. I will make those all part of the official record, and I believe they were forwarded to the board as well. Did you want me to read the one that just came in?
Sure.
Okay.
We have not seen it.
Okay,
are these with regard to the leaf blowers, Christina, or are they general comments?
Oh, no, they're just leaf blowers. I don't have any general comments.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No, I was asking for any public comments, general comments.
Oh, sorry. Nope, no public received.
Okay. All right. Jill, it's 7:34. And we noticed, I believe, the town board meeting for 7:45.
Well, the public hearing for 7:45, but Nick, we are continuing a public hearing. Might we start with our resolutions first then and wait for the public hearing until after 7:45?
That's what I would recommend, as we did have it on the agenda for 7:45. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so for those of you who are waiting, and I see you on the participant list, I know we've got people here. I'm sorry, we cannot open the public hearing until 7:45, so we'll take care of some administrative business, and then we'll be right back to open the public hearing on the floors.
Before we start,
Um,
I just want to share for Lauren. I've got something to share for you. This reminds me of, I just shared that little link there. If you want to click on that. All the panelists, you want to click on that link?
we do have work to do, Jeremy.
I know that. We're going to click on that while we pause before we start. You know what that is? Remember that BBC interview? Marching in the room?
Yes.
That was our own Newcastle version. I liked it.
Oh, I thought Lauren handled it much better.
For that.
Sharing memes during the board meeting. That's great.
He was just doing his chores. It's garbage night.
Good work.
Impressive. Okay, so do we want to do resolutions? We can.
Yes.
Sure.
Christina sent them,
And then we'll have
sent
two
two
more
more.
that are being,
Yeah, they actually should be in your email box. We just sent that.
Yep.
As I spoke earlier, there's 23 that were sent out late this afternoon, and then we have 2 more to round us out.
Tonight, I see. All right.
I'm sorry, when did, here we go, 5:23 in the agenda and backup?
It's
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, 5:05. I see
5:05.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, you said you were ready?
Yes. All right. I see the 2 more resolutions for tonight will come afterwards. All right. So I move to approve payment of claims in the amount of $1,189,276 as listed on the summary pre-check writing report and detail voucher detail report prepared on August 10th, 2020. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed Wednesday, August 12th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the Controller's Office to make adjusting entries on accounts associated with the closing the 2014 highway heavy-duty truck equipment purchases capital project based upon the verification that the project is complete. This will reduce the budget by $7,254.18 to stated account. Reduce the budget by $85,450 from the stated account in the resolution. Increase the budget by $78,000 to a different account, the serial bond proceeds account. In this case, please keep in mind that these are simply book entries to adjust the estimated budget figures to the actual final budget figures and do not represent in any exchange of funds or the existence of additional remaining funds for use elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, Lauren.
All right. I move to authorize the Comptroller's Office to make adjusting entries to all accounts associated with the closing of the 2017 Max Single Axle Combo Dump Truck with Snowplow Purchase Capital Project based on the verification that the project is complete and no further expenditures are expected. Whereas Town Comptroller Robert Deary concurs with this request and recommends corrective action be taken so that the project can be closed out by adjusting budget to actual figures with modifications to the capital fund as follows: reduce budget by $2,482 to expense account stated and reduce budget by $2,482 to the revenue account stated. In this case, please keep in mind that these are simply book entries to adjust the estimated budget figures to the actual final budget figures and do not represent the exchange of any funds or the existence of additional remaining funds for us for use elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize Comptroller's Office to make the adjusting entries to all accounts associated with closing the 2016 heavy-duty Mack truck dump truck with plow purchase capital project based on verification that the project is complete and no further expenditures are expected. Whereas Town Comptroller Rob Deary concurs with this request and recommends corrective action be taken so that the project can be closed out by adjusting budget to actual figures with modifications to the capital fund as follows: reduce budget by $28,634.65 stated expense account and reduce budget by $28,634.65 to the stated expense account, whereas town controller, in this case, please keep in mind that these are simply book entries to adjust the estimated budget figures to the actual final budget figures and do not represent the exchange of any funds or the existence of additional remaining funds for use elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jeremy?
Adjusting entries to all accounts associated with closing the 2015 DPW heavy equipment vehicle purchase capital project based on verification that the project is complete and no further expenditures are expected. They are being adjusted and modified as follows. We're reducing the budget for by $17,274.57 as reflected, as well as reducing the budget by that same amount as reflected to a separate account. As a reminder, as referenced above, this is an adjustment in the books for estimated budget figures, not actual figures, and do not represent the exchange of any funds or existence of additional remaining funds for use elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the Controller's Office to make adjusting entries to all accounts associated with the closing of the Gedney Park Playground Equipment and Area Renovation Capital Project based on verification that the project is complete and no further expenditures are expected. Whereas Town Controller Robert Deary concurs with the request and recommends corrective action be taken so that the project can be closed by adjusting budget to the actual figures with modification to the capital fund as follows. Reduce the budget by $1,205 as reflected in this particular account, as well as reducing the budget by that same amount in a second revenue account. As referenced above, these are just as estimated figures and do not involve the exchange of any funds or the existence of additional remaining funds for use elsewhere.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt the work session minutes from July 21st, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to accept the following monthly reports for July 2020. The town clerk, the court clerk, the development department, and the receiver of taxes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to declare the following vehicles as surplus. A 2004 Chevy, a 2007 Chevy, a 2009 Ford Escape, a Dodge Caravan, and a 2006 Ford Explorer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to adopt the following resolution, whereas this is pending before the New York State Supreme Court, County of Westchester, a tax certiorari proceeding entitled Matter of Newcastle Fire District Number 1 versus Assessor of the Town of Newcastle, whereas this proceeding contests the real property tax assessment of property located at 495 King Street, whereas this proceeding contests the real property tax assessments of lot 48 and 49, whereas proposed
I was going to say, you can certainly just go to the resolved paragraph as this is in the resolution. You're welcome.
Now, therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the settlement of this proceeding so as to sustain the 2018 assessment of lot 48 and adjust the 2018 assessment of lot 49 as follows. Be it further resolved that Council of the Town of Newcastle, Keenan Bean, together with the town administration, is hereby authorized to undertake such actions as are necessary to effectuate this settlement, including the execution and submission of a consent judgment to the court for purposes of entry.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
I heard a dog.
Where are we in the 22? Because at 7:45, I'd like to take a break and go to these poor people who have had to sit through listening to these resolutions. Can we do that?
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay.
You're at number 11.
Okay. You want to? Let's finish this page, then we'll go back. We'll go to the public hearing and then come back and finish the remaining 12 of these that we have to get through.
And 2 bonus ones.
Right.
All right. So just this last one.
Number 11 and 12.
Number 11 and 12. Okay. I move to hire Sierra Champagne as part-time receptionist within the town clerk's office at the hourly rate of $18 per hour, effective August 24th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the promotion of Anthony Polcari to lead maintenance mechanic auto within the Department of Public Works at an annual salary of $106,642.12 effective August 17, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will take a break from our resolutions and authorizations and go into our public hearing. So welcome back, everyone who was joining us for the town board meeting to attend our public hearing on our proposed leaf blower legislation. I'll ask in just a moment for our town attorney to give us an overview of the legislation and where we are in the process. I will just say for everyone, in case you missed this announcement earlier, that, you know, due to the sort of widespread power outages that we've been dealing with all week and the number of folks who, you know, left town or could not log on to the meeting this evening, this will not be our final evening of the public hearing. As we had hoped that it would be, we will continue to keep it open. We will have our next town board meeting on Tuesday, September 8th. We have a town work session on the 1st. On the 8th is our next town board meeting. At that time, we will continue the public hearing. So this is not the last opportunity for people to comment on this legislation. I know it's something that's of great interest to many people in the community. And for that reason, we feel that it's critically important that the public has an opportunity to be heard at the public hearing. So that said, I know there are some folks who are on the call tonight. Can we get a motion to open? Do we need a motion? It's already open. Jill, do we keep, we do? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So we will have a motion to reopen the public hearing regarding our local law on motorized leaf blowers.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So for those of you who are joining us, please feel free to raise your digital. Oh, I said I was going to ask first before we have anybody comment. Nick, did you have a sort of summary of how we got to this point today?
Sure, certainly. So
The
procedurally,
Reader's Digest version, not the.
not the attorney's version. Yes. So procedurally, the town board introduced a local law. It was workshopped over a period of months and considerable time with input from the public as well as the Sustainable Advisory Board. Local law was then introduced. It is unlike a zoning law, so it didn't have to be referred to any other agencies. The town board has held some public hearings and discussed at a workshop and made revisions. At tonight's work session, we discussed a minor revision to the definition of electric powered leaf blower. And I think people are familiar with it because we have discussed it. In essence, it bans the use of leaf blowers during certain time periods and then during the summer months, and recognizes they can be used during the fall and the spring cleanup. And the intent of a local law as set forth in the purpose section is really driven by the fact of the air particulates and the noise associated with the use of the motorized leaf blowers. That's my Reader's Digest version.
Thank you very much. I know that we're joined tonight by Rand Manassi from the Sustainability Advisory Board, as well as Jennifer Meads Flagg. I see some other names from the SAB as well. Oh, and I see Steve Wilk just joined us as well. Do any of you want to sort of jump in with an overview, or can we move on to public comment? So hard to do this when we're not in the room together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up for public comment then. Anybody who is here to speak on behalf of or ask questions about our proposed leaf blower legislation, please feel free to raise your digital hand and we will take you off of mute and bring you onto the call.
You can also type in the chat box in case you can't find the digital hand. And there's no one on YouTube right now either.
Okay, if we have no comments from anyone this evening, again, we will hold open the public hearing. We will have another public meeting. It will take place on Tuesday, September 8th, which is our next town board meeting. And we can pick this up at that time. I
Hey,
think-
Ivy, two questions came in through the chat.
Oh. Can we bring these people off of
Sure.
mute?
Do you want to do it in the order of the questions?
Sure.
Okay, Dan had asked a question. I'm going to open up your line. If you just unmute yourself, you should be able to speak.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Dan.
Hi, how are you?
Dan, can you just state for the record your first and last name and your address?
Yeah, sure. It's Dan Keskis, 9 Tangle Road.
Welcome.
Thanks. So the question was, you know, of great concern to me are a couple things. One is this sundown term was kind of removed and changed to 8 o'clock. And I think part of the issue is, you know, we try and eat outside dinner during the summertime, even during the fall. As the light gets, you know, earlier and earlier, why is 8 o'clock the appropriate time? Why not 5 o'clock? I don't see any commercial units out there. There's just a couple neighbors that feel that 8, 9, 10 o'clock is appropriate to blow your leaves.
I think part of it is that while some folks have commercial businesses doing it, if you're doing it yourself and you're coming home from work later in the day, you can't necessarily be doing it at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. You may have to be doing it after that 5 o'clock hour because you're a dual working family or whomever's taking care of it is working during regular business hours, maybe locally or maybe commuting.
But why not do it then Saturday at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock? I mean, if you're talking 8 o'clock in September or October, I think you could appreciate that it's pitch dark outside and that's very disruptive to the people around. And I think the whole point of this law is the particulates in the air and the noise pollution. And that's real noise pollution.
So I think what we were trying to do with the law and the reason that we took out some of the more ambiguous language was to try to peg this to the language in our noise ordinance. So rather than having a separate set of rules for leaf blowers versus the other equipment that is discussed in the noise regulations within the town code, we wanted to marry the two and have consistency there. And the feeling among our police department with regard to sort of enforcement capability was that to have a single standard throughout the year makes it less ambiguous and easier to enforce, cleaner to enforce. So understanding 8 p.m., you know, it may be past sundown in certain portions of the year. The feeling though was that we didn't think people would be out using their leaf blowers after sundown anyway. So, you know, taking it from sundown, which is really amorphous, and making it a little bit more specific, which would be easier to enforce.
I guess the concern would be is there are people that definitely do use them past sundown. And so, you know, that's the reality. And that becomes disruptive to people that are trying to eat outside. Right, that's the first thing. The second thing is there is a swim club, Chappaqua Swim and Tennis, that consistently breaks the law, mowing leaves very early in the morning, and yet they want an exemption to be able to use gas leaf blowers year round when they can't even adhere to the current law. I'm wondering how you guys are thinking about the pool club exemption as well.
Okay, I'll go. So I think with regard to the exemption, it's limited to the tennis courts at the pool club. So the exemption there is for the maintenance of the courts only, not for the entire facility. And it's Does that answer the question? Does anybody else have any?
Well, my response is if there's a violation, whether it's from a noise violation, whether it's from a leaf blower, a party, music, it's a noise violation. So if it's a noise violation, it needs to be reported, and where and when it's enforceable, it needs to be enforced. So, I don't think it's has really any bearing, at least the way I'm understanding it, whether there's an exception or not. If there's a noise violation, no matter what it comes from, there's a noise violation that should be addressed. I don't know if you've been reporting those or not, and maybe you have, and you don't feel they've been enforced. I don't know that answer, but whatever the noise violation is, if you're telling me that they're having parties at 7 o'clock in the morning, or mowing a lawn at 7 o'clock in the morning, or blowing leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning, they shouldn't be, and it should be enforced no matter what that noise violation is.
They have not to date been enforced. Hopefully that will change going forward. I can tell you the chairman of the board there has been written to multiple times by multiple parties. He doesn't respond. They just don't care. I mean, if you look up the definition of bad neighbor, it's Chappaqua Swim and Tennis.
I'd argue Con Edison.
The challenge for us from
Con Ed, but okay.
Dan, I know that you know this because we communicated over email about it, but just for everybody else, the enforcement challenge, and this will be a challenge on the leaf blower legislation as well, is when you have a noise violation, we can only enforce, which is to, issue a citation, have a violation if we have witnessed it. So, we need you and your neighbors to call when it's happening, not to, not an hour later or whatever, because we do actually have to see it happening, and officers have to witness it in order to be able to enforce it.
Understood.
You know that, but I just want to make that clear for everybody else. That's part of the reason why we have not been able to, while the town has been involved in communications, and we have, and will continue to follow up with the management at CST to address your concerns. It's the reason why we haven't issued a violation there to date.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We appreciate your comments.
Okay, Brian Knapp had also typed in a question and has his hand up. Brian, just unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, Brian. Welcome. Can you just state your address for everybody?
Sure. So my name is Brian Knapp. I live at 64 Oak Hill Road. This is very exciting. This is the first time I've dialed into one of these, so thanks for having me. Just a couple observations. And so Dan's a neighbor, right? Dan lives around the corner in Tanglewild. We share a property line with CST. I can see right now, I'm sitting outside, I can see CST courts from my backyard, and I can hear people playing tennis all day long, which frankly I love. I love hearing people playing tennis and having a good time. What I don't appreciate though is on the occasion where you hear, the leaf blowers or them taking care of the courts. And understand, obviously, I'm a tennis player myself. You want to go to the court early in the morning, get your time in. You want to have the court ready. But there's probably a dozen homes around CST that sit, quite close to the tennis courts. I'm much closer to the tennis courts than I am to the swimming pool. And so I raise a question about the exemption, right, and being able to use those. For the courts when there are a number of homes, that abut right up against the property line there. And then also thinking, Dan made the great point about, he was thinking about fall and winter time, right? When it's, it's 8 o'clock, but it's been dark since 6:30, since 7 o'clock. I was thinking of a little bit more around the summertime, and I was thinking back to my daughter's birthday, Saturday, June 7th, sitting outside on our porch having dinner. Literally the cake comes out and the mowers or the blowers or whatever it was at CST fire up. And if you come over to my house, which I invite anybody to do, the sound just reverberates. It's very loud, right? So I'm sensitive to that stuff in a way that others aren't. I find that the noise, the use of mowers and blowers late at night, it's rarely by my neighbors. And I think to Dan's point, I agree with that. You're not coming home at 8 o'clock at night. Maybe you are, but I don't think most people are, and blowing their lawn and, mowing. They're going to save it for Saturday, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, whatever. So one, appreciate consideration around the exemption for swim and tennis clubs. And then 2, if you think about 8 o'clock, that's quite late, right? To give people the go ahead to be blowing at that time. You know, offer kind of a middle way, even if you just dialed it back an hour to 7 o'clock, I think that's reasonable. I think that still gives people time coming home from work to get done whatever they need to do. So that's, you know, my perspective, again, living very close to Chappaqua Swim and Tennis.
Thanks, Brian, for the additional comments about the situation there at CST. I mean, I would just say with regard to the cleanup of the tennis courts in the morning, just the exemption is that we are offering to the swim and tennis clubs, including CST, is with regard to the ability to use gas-powered leaf blowers. It does not exempt them from the time restrictions that are in the noise ordinance. So
yeah,
if they were blowing early in the morning, that's not allowed. It doesn't matter if it's the winter or the summer. It's not allowed for them to blow before 7 a.m. You know, and I believe that they can probably find ways to get their courts ready for those early morning people. You know, people play tennis long before they had gas-powered leaf blowers.
Sure,
Brian,
that's right.
Brian, just curious, are the
Yep.
courts clay or hard?
I'm sorry. Oh, is it clay or hard court? I believe it's the hard true. That's right behind my house.
Okay.
If
it's clay, they sweep them, so I don't.
Right.
You brush them. I don't. You know, it's very quiet.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, I share a property line with CST, and it's literally my backyard. But I don't mean to make this specifically about CST.
No, I was just curious.
But yeah. But you know, as Dan said, and I will echo, there's been a number of instances this summer where we have, you know, alerted CST that they were not operating, you know, in compliance with code. We have not, or I have not personally, you know, called the police and made a formal complaint, which we understand we'll do in the future. So no worries there. I just think honestly, 8 o'clock, you know, mowers and blowers, these things are loud, they're annoying, they echo. I mean, is it, you know, kids are trying to go to bed at 8 o'clock on a, you know, when the light's dark. So I would just ask the board, you know, the town to consider, you know, consider an earlier time than 8 p.m.
Okay, Brian, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, Victoria Alzapidi, I'm going to open up your line. Just unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. So greetings, everyone. First, I really want to start by expressing my sincere gratitude and thanks to all of the town board members, to Jill Shapiro, all of our town staff, everyone who has played a role in trying to restore our power and our services after the storm. So thank you for all your time and efforts. I'm amazed, frankly, that you have the energy to be on this call right now. So thank you for everything you're doing and that you continue to do. And I just actually sent in some public comments to the public comments email and Jill's email and the town board email. So I know you've heard from me before on this issue. I actually want to start by echoing the concerns that my neighbors just raised about the time in the evening. You know, I think if there's any way to progressively think about making the cutoff point a little bit earlier so that we can kind of have the quiet enjoyment longer, that would be wonderful. But the 2 points I wanted to raise tonight, one is I recently became I was invited to volunteer as a consultant on the Council on Race and Equity's Community Partnership, Environment and Conservation Subcommittee. And we have been talking a lot about the fact that the use of leaf blowers and the emissions from leaf blowers and other equipment that yard workers and lawn care workers use is really also an environmental racism and racial justice concern and issue, because many of the folks who are doing the work and exposed to the emissions from leaf blowers, whether it be the gas emissions or the particulate matter that comes up when they're using the leaf blowers, are people of color. So this topic has actually come up in our conversations, and it seems very timely in terms of the wonderful new work that the CRE, Council on Race and Equity, are doing to pass this legislation for the positive impact that it would have on environmental racism, reducing environmental racism. So that's one point I wanted to bring up to all of you. And then I also wanted to bring up the possibility of adding specific language in the legislation that deals with air quality. So there have been seemingly an increase of air quality alerts that we've been receiving from the New York State Department of Health. And it's hard enough to breathe on those days. In fact, the state. I'm sorry, can you say that again? Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Victoria. I think we just had some background noise on the line that we took care of. Keep going.
Okay, no worries. So just to say that it's hard enough to breathe on those days of poor air quality, and that we might want to consider adding some restrictions on days that there's an air quality alert to prohibit use of any leaf blower, whether gas or electric, on those days. I looked into this a bit. I found some legislation in Arizona that talks specifically about limiting leaf blower use on air quality alert days. It also seems there's some interesting data out there around the science, what constitutes an air quality alert day. It seems that there are probably many days that the air is very poor that don't fall into that definition. So the science behind this, is that we're probably only receiving air quality alerts on a fraction of the days when it's really dangerous to breathe outside, and when ultimately we probably should have restrictions on leaf blowers. But at least to get the conversation started and get folks kind of thinking about, should I be using my leaf blower on a day where it's already, noted that it's difficult to breathe, to the point that people are being told to maybe not even leave their homes, especially folks who have, pulmonary or breathing and respiratory issues. So I put some language together based on the Arizona law. I sent it out in the email that I just sent, and referenced that law and modified the language a little bit. And you'll see that what I'm putting in here is actually a year-round suggestion, because there are many air quality days that can actually fall in the part of the year, October through the end of May, that there are also air quality issues, not just over the June to end of September months.
So I want to say,
put that out there.
With regard to the research that you're discussing and the changes that you're recommending, first of all, I did not obviously get a chance to read the email that you sent because we've been in work session and exec session before that. But I look forward to reading it. And I will just say this, we've been down this path for a long time now, that the town board has been discussing leaf blower legislation. And I am very mindful of the fact that I don't want to go backwards. And so, we've gotten to this point. We are at the second night of public hearings about proposed legislation, having gone through several work sessions to come up with legislation that this town board felt was ready to take to the public. I don't want to go backwards. I want to try to move forward on this particular legislation that doesn't discount the quality of the research that you've done. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be considered and that we shouldn't think about ways to incorporate that perhaps as we continue to evolve legislation in the future, because we have committed that as the science changes and as we know more, that we will continue to revisit this as necessary. But I want to tell you that I don't want to take this back out of the public hearing. I don't want to go back to a work session to workshop our local law at this point. That's my opinion.
I totally hear you. And please note, I just literally sent this moments ago. So I know that you're all just receiving it now and haven't had a chance to read it. I totally hear you, Ivy. My goal was not at all to have to start workshopping new ideas. This literally just came to me because I have been receiving so many air quality alerts. It seems kind of timely and relevant. So if it has to wait for the future, so be it. But I just wanted it to at least be on your radar.
And, I will also pass that along to our SAB as well, because, really the men and women who serve on our SAB have been the ones to percolate these ideas up to us and have done a great deal of research on this topic as well. So this may be not unfamiliar to them, and I would kind of use them as my sounding board to kind of continue to provide guidance to us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Victoria. I appreciate your comments.
Okay, Kent Thomas, I'm going to open up your line. Just unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay, first thing, Ivy, I'd like to clarify what you just said. You said that you don't want to go back to a work session to discuss this anymore. Does that mean that you don't want to entertain any changes to the current proposal?
Yes, that's what that means. I mean, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel free to offer them to us and suggest them to us. That's exactly what a public hearing is for. But my goal at this point is to try to pass leaf blower legislation. So I would really prefer not to take this back to our work sessions. Each board member has the opportunity to weigh in on that and can certainly vote on that the way that they so choose. And if they indicate to me that they do not intend to support this particular legislation and that it needs to go back, we can certainly do that. But at this point, I'm really wanting to continue to move forward. It's gotten to a point where it feels like it's a little bit like paralysis by analysis, analysis by paralysis, whatever that expression is, where we've gone through many iterations. I'd like to pass something.
Okay, I would like to still make my comments. I last year during a meeting, I said about the neighbor behind me who on Memorial Day used his leaf blower for 84 straight minutes while we were trying to entertain on our patio less than 40 feet away, because we live in 1/2 acre zoning. And I request that you move the time period to starting on the Friday before Memorial Day so that this does not, that something like this doesn't occur. But more than that, I also think that the hours need to be reduced, the allowable hours need to be reduced on weekends in order to allow for entertaining. Many people like to entertain outside on especially Saturday evening. 8 o'clock is quite late. People are usually finishing dinner or finishing entertaining by that time. I think something like 5 is a much more reasonable time period. And I think on Sundays, many people like to have people over, especially in the afternoon. And so I think something like 1 p.m. or quite a bit earlier is reasonable. I'd like to also echo the comments of the two gentlemen who first were on. And I agree that I think that when sundown comes around, everyone kind of tries to relax and has the idea that that's a quiet period. And so I think that sundown, you'd be giving up half an hour in June when it goes 8:30 is sundown, but it goes to 8 o'clock as far as being sundown sometime in August and in middle of May. So there's plenty of time where it's dark where people will be allowed to use their leaf blowers. But then the next thing I wanted to, and I also I sent you an email, and in there I went spoke about how to get information out to the public, and then I thought there should be a reason for an annual review of the law and how effective it is and whether people are satisfied with it. But the other thing is I have not really heard much discussion about enforcement. I know Chief Carroll said that at one point that like if it was a first offense that they would just give a warning, which I totally agree with. But what subsequent offenses, what would be the result?
I don't think we could speak of to enforcement. I mean, that's an enforcement issue, and tell me if anyone disagrees, but law enforcement and the police department, code enforcement, they're going to take that measure and determine on a situation by situation basis, I would assume, but that's up to them.
So there wouldn't be an automatic issue of a summons, like say for a second offense or beyond, and there wouldn't be any penalty schedule,
Right.
Well, the code contains
the noise ordinance then.
Okay.
Correct? I don't have it in for Nick. Do you have the?
I don't have the noise ordinance.
Yeah.
From the noise ordinance, no, but from this section, there is a penalty provision. So it would be, right, would be within the noise ordinance. I'll try and pull that up.
But irrespective of the penalty, you got to look at it no different than any other law. If I use a speeding ticket analogy, I mean, if you get pulled over the first time, you get a warning. It's not, and the same cop pulls you over the next time, He doesn't have to give you a ticket, or she doesn't have to give you a ticket. He can warn you again. There's so many different scenarios. So they can give you a ticket the first time if they want to. It's no different. You can get arrested for shoplifting the first time, or you get a walk. So this is treated no different, in my view. But I'm not the law enforcement officer. You
Right, but
you
if the law,
you can't legislate a mandatory X that something has to happen in the field, because arguably every time it's mandatory because that's what the law is. In practicality, it's not.
yeah, but if the law doesn't have any teeth, people are just going to abuse it. And I know places like Yonkers have an automatic or a $250 fine. They have things set forward, that'll occur if on. And like I said, everybody gets at least one chance to do it and be warned before something happens.
So our noise ordinance does have that type of language in it. I think Jeremy's point is that it's on a case-by-case basis as to how the police will handle that enforcement, but there is a penalty provision in the existing noise ordinance. I apologize, I'm just not pulling it up right away.
No one can write into a statute that the police must make an arrest every X time or the second time, because an arrest is an extreme. It's not here an arrest, or issue a citation every time, because you cannot dictate that in the field. They're going to do what they're going to do in the field, how they deem appropriate. But the provisions will be there to penalize them and punish them.
All right, I understand that. I understand there has to be discretion. Yeah. Okay.
Right, so it's chapter 9011 is the penalties, which is $250 fine.
Okay. All right.
I think, hey, Kent, I think related to your other points, right? The idea to align with the noise ordinance in terms of the times, right, for a domestic tool, for any domestic tool. Because so whether it's a leaf blower, or it could be a lawnmower, or it could be any other, any other device that could cause the noise that we're talking about. If we, separately, we can consider talking about changing the timing of a noise ordinance, our current noise ordinance, but aligning leaf blowers with lawnmowers or any other type of domestic tool makes sense to me.
Okay, leaf blowers, just, when the SAB did their analysis, they also included in there that the frequency of the leaf blower is quite different from that of most other machinery. And it can be penetrate walls, and it can, et cetera. So it's a kind of a different animal. But I understand what you're trying to do in creating one statute that addresses it all.
But I would say your comments on education and so forth from your email was great.
Okay. All right. That's all I got. Thank you.
And thanks for your comments. So I'm not seeing any other raised hands at this point.
Yep, nobody else.
Okay, so, thank you. I want to thank everybody for attending tonight's public hearing. Again, we will continue this on Tuesday, September 8th, and give the public an opportunity to comment. We will also, and, I will ask the SAB to assist me with making sure that we get the word out to the public so that, we can really have had a fulsome discussion of this topic. We've had a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations, and I just want to make sure that we have, that record of full transparency to be able to carry this through to the finish line. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Please join us again. So Jeremy, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I just want to say very quickly, if anyone's still on, for the people who were listening and making comments, don't construe my comment, and I think I speak for everyone else, that we don't support or understand what you're saying and the arguments you're making. We want to move this ball forward, because the more we just get mired in making changes and every little change and every little issue, and it certainly isn't perfect, is just going to hold us back from getting this passed. There's nothing saying we can't revisit this in years to come, weeks to come, months to come. But let's just get something moving forward and completed. Otherwise, we're going to be here next year. That's it. Doesn't mean that we disagree or that you're wrong. It just, in my opinion, and I think for everyone else, we just need to move it forward with something of substance and value.
Thank you. So do we need a motion to close the public hearing then?
To adjourn the public hearing to a date in September, I believe it was, September 8th.
September 8th.
So
Yes.
I move to adjourn, close the public hearing. We still keep it open for written comment.
Adjourn it.
You're adjourning it, not closing it.
We're not closing it. Okay. Until September 8th.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, everybody. Come back and see us again on September
Yeah,
8th,
we-
or feel free to send us emails. We read them. We try to respond to as many as we can. We've gotten thousands over the past several days, so we're a couple days behind on leaf blowers at least. But we'll certainly be reading them and taking them into consideration.
And we're starting with resolution 13 when you're ready.
Yes.
15.
Back to our
And I can read 16 when you get to it, summarize it. It's a long one.
Jeremy?
Yes, I'm just pulling it back up again. Resolution 13. Hold on. I'm on 8. I'm on 9. I'm on 10. I'm on 12. I am on 13. All right. I move to accept the resignation of Adriana Pace from the position of Senior Office Assistant within the Department of Public Works effective August 13th, 2020. The town would like to thank Pace for her service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the posting and hiring for the position of Senior Office Assistant within the Department of Public Works at a starting salary of $56,365.17.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move toward the bid, I move toward the bid retroactively from July 24th, 2020 for DPW 2020-05 tree removal, pruning, vertical mulching, as opposed to horizontal mulching, and stump grinding to Olmsted Tree and Shrub Care Company, LLC, with a cost of $474.37 for 1-year contract with the option to extend for 3 one-year terms.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead. This is what we want, Lisa.
If you like, I can summarize this one.
Please
Yes,
do.
please.
Great. So this is the full resolution is set forth before the board in the agenda packet made available to the public. It concerns awarding a bid for the community center roof repair. It notes that 5 base bid proposals were received in accordance with the law and sets forth the numerical amount of each bid. Notes that MCT was the lowest responsible bidder. However, MCT complied with General Municipal Law 13011 and noted there was a unilateral error in their bid, which was $200,000 lower than the next lowest bidder, and our town's engineer confirmed that that was a mistake, and the town board by this resolution is authorizing MCT to withdraw its bid and awarding the bid to the second lowest responsible bidder, Armor Tight Construction Corp., for $336,500 as more fully set forth in the resolution before the board.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, counsel.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We've been talking about this for almost 7 months. I move to adopt the following resolution, whereas the town board seeks to maintain a well-functioning, aesthetically pleasing road network and is committed to preserving the road network. Whereas construction activity associated with the home construction and renovation, utility upgrades and repairs, and other similar work involves roadway excavation leading to the accelerated roadway deterioration and significantly increased road maintenance costs if such disruptions are not properly restored. Whereas the town board recognizes it is prudent to provide proper restoration of its roadways. Whereas the establishment of minimum pavement restoration standards is necessary to ensure the adequate restoration of all roadways, sidewalks, and other public right-of-ways in the town of Newcastle in a uniform manner that safeguards the town's infrastructure investment. Whereas the town board desires to update the minimum pavement restoration limits diagram dated January 21st, 2020, adopted by the town board on March 31st, 2020. And whereas the updated restoration requirements depicted on the minimum pavement restoration limits diagram dated July 2020 are sufficient to protect the town's local investments and maintain the quality of roads. And whereas the town board is authorized by section 111-14 of the Newcastle Town Code to amend the minimum pavement restoration diagram from time to time as the town board deems necessary. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the amended minimum pavement restoration limits diagram dated July 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I move to authorize the Recreation and Parks Department to go out to bid for coach bus services for sponsored trips in 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the purchase from HP Inc. Of a replacement printer, fax, accessory, and 3-year warranty for the Police Department administrative offices for a total cost of $4,856.55, which is included in the 2020 budget line stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to adopt the following resolution, whereas in 2015, the town board created the Every Person is Connected committee, and whereas the goal of the EPIC committee is to improve the quality of life for people with special needs by increasing awareness, promoting full inclusion in the community, and implementing programs, services, and opportunities in areas such as the social, recreational, educational, vocational, transportation, training, housing, and care services. And whereas the town board desires to amend the membership requirements of the EPIC committee to allow high school student members to participate as regular board members. Now therefore be it resolved that the EPIC committee shall be comprised of 7 members whom shall be appointed by the town board, and at least 2 of the members shall be high school students. Be it further resolved that the student member shall serve a 12-month term and shall have full voting rights as a regular board member. Be it further resolved that the following student member is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the EPIC committee, Alexandra McCarthy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, Alexandra McCarthy.
I move to adopt the following resolution. Westchester County wishes to supply emergency communications equipment and supplies to public safety first responders from fire, emergency, medical services, and law enforcement agencies within Westchester County to support emergency communications and maintain a safe and reliable means to communicate while serving the residents, workforce, and visitors in the great county of Westchester. Scrolling down there, therefore it be resolved that the town board hereby authorizes town administrator Jill Shapiro enter into a license agreement with the county of Westchester for the distribution and operation of emergency communications equipment, subject of course to review and approval by our council. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town administrator to enter in written contract with authorized third-party users, including the Chappaqua Fire Department, Millwood Fire Department, Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance Corps, for the transfer of custody and control of the emergency communications equipment, subject to review and approval by aforementioned council. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby.
Hello?
Did we just lose him?
Nope, I'm back.
No, not you, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
No, sorry, I went out as well. Low battery.
Oh, so he lost power.
Jeremy just lost power. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town to take all the other necessary actions to implement this resolution.
So you're moving the motion
Oh,
because
Yeah,
Jeremy's no longer in the meeting. Yes.
got it. Yes, I move. this
Second.
motion. Doing
All in favor?
aye.
aye.
I move to authorize the renewal of the insurance policies with Zurich Insurance Company as indicated below. Limited liability policy, a liability policy annual premium for 2020 to 2021 for $421,005. A crime insurance policy for 2020 to 2021 for $599,000, and a OCP policy for $209,000.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the purchase of a web. Do we need to do this? The purchase of the website?
No, we don't.
Great. So is this what was updated?
The movie.
Launch air, cost production. Yeah. So there's a in the email. There's a different resolution that's replacing 23.
Got it.
Yeah, that's right. Table 23 and just use the 2 new ones I just
Exactly.
emailed.
All right. So I'll just go through the email. I move to approve the funding in the amount of $1,500 to Lawn Chair Theater for programming for the summer 2021 performance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move to authorize the Parks and Rec Department to enter into a contract with Frost Productions to schedule an additional outdoor summer movie for the amount not to exceed $4,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Christine, I would just note the last 4 resolutions were by a vote of 4-0, not 5-0, as Jeremy, I don't think is back.
Lisa's
Oh,
not here.
3-0.
3-0.
3-0, thank you.
3-0. Yeah, no lease.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeremy did lose power, so just want to note that for the record there. Nick, did you mention to me that there was one last matter in executive session that we actually, we didn't finish?
Okay.
That I would just needed some guidance on. So.
So be a motion to go to
we
executive
needed to
session
take-
for advice of counsel.
Advice of counsel.
So moved.
But I think that's all, we finished all the resolutions, yes? Got them all through? Okay, terrific. All right,
Yes.
thank you all.
Yeah.